You're watching Soul Sisters on Pure Soul, powered by Isaac Hayes on Dash Radio.
This is Soul Sisters on Pure Soul on Dash Radio. I'm Yama Brown.
I'm Heather Hayes.
And we've got a special guest, Mr. Mark Brown.
Hey.
Hello. I like your voice.
Oh, thank you.
You got a radio voice.
Thank you for having me on.
He does.
Yeah.
That's like a cool voice. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Miss Keita, our producer, let us know all about you.
So, for the people who are tuning in, please tell our listeners and our viewers, because you're on camera too, so you can wave. Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
The ones that don't know. So, because we've been playing a lot of Prince, so kind of a segue into.
We don't need an excuse, though, to play Prince.
This is true. This is true.
They just want to know my background. Huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I used to, clean his car and, shine his shoes, and I was his personal cook.
I
No.
don't believe that.
I was
at
going
all.
to say, really?
First of all, that ain't what I read.
Like, that ain't what I read.
No, I was the bass player for Prince and the Revolution.
Okay.
Okay.
Currently just the Revolution because, of course, our leader is gone.
Mm-hmm.
But,
So, how did that
That's
opportunity, like your desire to, I guess, become a musician, where did that come from first before you got that opportunity?
I started when I was about 5.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, 5 years old. And
Were you playing instruments
Yeah,
or singing? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I saw the Jackson 5 and on American Bandstand. I saw Three Dog Night at one of the New Year's Eve shows. I think it was Dick Clark or somebody. And that was it. That set me off. And then, I started beating on cardboard boxes and creating my own instruments until, the famous Sears catalog. Yeah. I was able to
That
see.
was the best.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I missed the Sears catalog, going through and be like, I want that.
No,
with
get a
the
load of this
star.
Sears catalog and green stamps.
Ooh.
I don't know what that is.
Before, you don't remember green stamps? Oh,
Man, I
man.
never-
Now they had their own catalog, and so that's how I got started. Saving green stamps, going through the neighborhood collecting.
Oh.
And they had their own catalog.
That's
Yeah.
right. And then I was able to purchase my first instrument that way, and that's all she wrote. I've been playing ever since.
So what made you come upon the bass as opposed to other instruments?
It's a funny story. I got a book coming out next October. Okay.
Okay.
The full story's in there. But
Okay.
it's funny because the postman finally brought this box to my house, and I grabbed the scissors and ripped the box open and tore half the strings off.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wow.
I was ripping that box open because, I couldn't get it in. It had these, like, big old staples on it.
Right.
And so, I'm, like, ripping through it, and I cut a couple strings, and so it only had 4 strings on it.
Oh, wow.
And so I made that where Jermaine Jackson did it.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. And then that's how I started playing bass. Then the first song I ever played was Let's Do It Again.
Okay.
I know y'all remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was my first song I ever played. I played it with one finger, because I couldn't figure it out.
I can play Is It the Way on the bass.
Yeah.
It's like 3 notes, but anyway, I just got it. So is that that's the only instrument you play, or
No.
you play more?
I play drums. Drums are actually my first instrument.
Okay.
And then bass guitar. I play rhythm guitar, and I play piano.
Okay, awesome. So did you once you started playing and you knew you were good, did you aspire to be a solo musician or play in a band or write music, or what was your aspiration at that point?
It's interesting because when I was in high school, was I in high school? Yeah, high school. I started going into the studio. I started figuring out that you can actually go somewhere and record this stuff. Prince was like light years ahead of me, and he had already been doing it. But I had started, I think I was about 16 or 17, and I started spending all my money going into the studio recording. At that time, I knew I wanted to be in a band, but I couldn't sing. I'm not really a singer. I'm an entertainer. So I said, yeah, I'm going to put together a band, and then I'll go in the studio and I'll write all their music. And that was my goal, and then Prince came along.
Okay, so how did that meeting happen? What was that like?
The first meeting was pretty interesting because I made him some pancakes. A lot of people know that story, but I'll just tell it again in brief. He was dating Kim Upshur, the waitress, and she came back one day and she said, "He's here, and I want you to do a really good job on this order," and blah blah blah. So I whipped the order. I said, "Who's here?" And she says, and she wouldn't tell me, and she goes back out, and I'm like, jumping. There's this real high counter, and I'm jumping up and down trying to see who it is. And I saw that it was him, and I made him pancakes. And about 3 to 4 years later, sitting in rehearsal, I said, "Do you remember the kid that made you pancakes when he came to visit Kim?" And then he just fell on the floor. He just hit the floor, and he has this laugh that is so funny. When he starts laughing, everybody laughs because his laugh is funny. And he's on the floor, and he's holding his stomach because he can't stop laughing. And he kept saying, "That was you, that was you." Ah.
So did you have to audition for him, or did you just say, "Hey, I play bass," or?
If you want to call it an audition, it really wasn't. I mean, I don't know what happened, but he called me out. Bobby Z picked me up. I used to work at 7-Eleven. And Bobby Z picked me up. I got fired that day because I didn't go to work. And he took me out to Prince's house, and I swear we sat down for, it couldn't have been 10 minutes. I mean, who has a 10-minute jam session?
Right.
Yeah.
And then we were done. I was like, "Oh man, I didn't make it. I didn't make the cut."
Like, this too short.
But then he looked at Bob and he said, "Oh, I'll take him home." And I was like, "What do you mean you'll take me home?" I was like, "Hey man, what are you talking about?" What do you mean you'll take me home? He says, "No, I'll take you home." And I was like, let me set this up. Wait a minute. Before we got there, Bobby said, "Are you sure you know what you're getting into?" That's what made me afraid.
Okay.
Now, again, you can see where I'm coming
Right.
from. He said, "Are you sure you know what you're getting into?" I was like, "Why would he ask me that? What do you mean, am I sure?"
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Prince half naked, and he comes
Oh,
down.
my gosh.
Well, I mean, that's how he dressed, man.
Yeah.
He was looking cool when I met him. But I
Right.
was like, woo, that's some different stuff, I mean, he had them leg warmers on and stuff, and he wore them basketball shorts, and I was like, woo, okay. And
You're
then
like, this fool up in here chilling for real.
and then he said, "I'm gonna take you home." I was like,
You like, no. And Uber wasn't around then, so you're like, let me call a taxi,
I was like-
please.
and then Bobby just looked at me and went,
Oh my goodness.
and he left.
Well, we take it that ride home was interesting.
It was very interesting because I was like, come on, the dude just fired me. I mean, I didn't even get 10 minutes of an audition. What could he possibly want to talk to me about?
right.
And we didn't even get in the car yet, and he starts playing me all the new album, Controversy, all the stuff, and he starts telling me all the stuff that he's about to do, and he says, "So it's Thursday. You let me know Monday if you want the job."
How about I let you know right now?
Wow,
'Cause
that's
7-Eleven
exactly what I
inspired me.
said. That's exactly what I
you
said.
know right now.
I said, "Well, I don't need to wait till Monday."
Yeah.
And he says, No. He said, "I want you to wait till I said, "But I don't need to." He said, I want you to wait till Monday and let me know." I said, "Okay, whatever floats your boat, man."
Right.
Well, he probably knew him. Like he knew his, habits or his expectations probably when it came to the musicians that were part of his, unit. So I guess he was like, think about it.
I think he wanted me to, really think about it
Yeah.
Because you were young, right?
I just turned 19.
So he figured you'd have to talk to your parents or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Well, I got so much negative talk, that was negative feed in my ear. I think he just wanted me to make sure this is something I wanted to do.
Okay.
So we can
Okay.
have the timeline correct. At that point, what albums had he already done? Like,
For You, Prince, wasn't that the second one? Wasn't it just called Prince? Mm-hmm. And then Dirty Mind.
okay.
okay.
Because the funny thing is it's so funny to me the language and the lyrics and stuff, lyrical content now. It's just like Prince would not. He was just way before his time.
Yeah.
Simply because the lyrical content that he had back in '80s, people wouldn't even bat an eye now. You know, that's like 40 years ago at this point, you know. So I'm sure people were like, are you going on the road with him? Like, yeah.
I was like, am I going on the road?
He like, this fool got on leg warmers and gym shorts.
Man, I
And
remember.
he ready to take me home. My daddy about to whip my tail.
I remember pulling into cities and they'd be picketing, you know,
Yeah.
go home, you know. They didn't want us there.
Wow,
Especially down
I
in the
remember
Bible Belt. Woo, they hated us down
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
But I mean, I feel like that's going to happen to me, people who are special, and
He said special.
special in the sense that not just
Geniuses.
genius. Like I think when you're specifically, I think we all are put here for a very specific reason. But I think those like Prince or Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson, they hone in on their purpose at a very early age. And when you have something to say, of course people can pick it. You know, because
Yeah.
you go against the grain. You go because I think that's a new way of thinking. You know, and the freedom of music and expression. And people in the Bible Belt weren't trying to hear that, especially
Thank
not
God
then.
he didn't
Because
stop
I remember
being who he
I remember
was.
my older sisters had a Prince album that I was not allowed to listen to, and it was when he had his hair was so pretty on it. It's just his. It's yeah, but that's
Girl,
why
I couldn't listen to Marvin Gaye. You know I wasn't able to listen to Prince.
Well, your daddy only let you listen to him.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't listen to Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing. So you know.
No sexual healing.
Ooh, it's the man.
I can listen to Isaac Hayes all day long now.
I used to love me some Isaac.
My dad didn't censor my music, or he just didn't pay it. No, he didn't censor music though like that for sure.
Yeah, but by the time I was listening to Prince, he really wasn't like around like
Your
that.
and Prince loved your dad, which is so funny.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
but it's like,
He did.
come on.
I had to say he did.
I mean, of course, but I'm just saying, you know,
He
Yeah.
imitated him every rehearsal.
did he?
The voice, everything.
That is hilarious.
I would have given anything
to see that.
Yeah, that was some funny
That's
stuff.
classic. So did you
Anything.
enjoy it? Because a lot of people like, I've been on the road with her dad. So did you enjoy the road and that experience? Because we were kind of young to be on the road like that. So how was that experience for you first going out on the road with him?
I was afraid the first year. I'll be honest, you know. And what people have to understand with me, see, Andre and Dez and those guys, man, see, they had been doing this. I was young in the game. I was new. I was wet behind the ears. And so when I got exposed to what really being a rock star is all about, it was very scary because people were crazy. I mean, especially groupies, man. I didn't know what a groupie was until I got out on that road. And then he basically took my identity from me. You know, when he hired me, I was a certain person.
Right.
I had my own look, my own feel, my own sound. I was more in the, Slave and Cameo, Mr. Marks. That was like my bass player. So I had my own thing going on. He stripped me down. Even told me to get rid of the bass because he didn't like the sound of it. And that's when I started playing a Fender Jazz because I used to play an Ibanez. So he stripped me down to nothing. But I was willing to do that because one thing I realized at that point in my life is when you have a mentor, that's what they do, a good one. He'll take you down to bare bones. Like if you join a football team or something, I mean, they're going to break you.
Right.
And because that is how they make you great. And then, so my mother told me that, and so she said, just take it. It doesn't matter what happens, deal with it. Because, I wanted to beat him up a couple times. I'm going to tell y'all
But
right
you
now.
did.
I wanted
Yeah.
to whip him across the
I
room.
mean, talking
But-
to musicians now that used to play with Dad,
Yeah.
they say the same thing. I wanted to kick your daddy's,
Yeah.
you know what?
But he was like
lot.
he was like a big brother. I mean, that's the way I started to look at him, big brother. And but man, he stripped me down even to my identity. I didn't know who I was. And then one day it clicked. One day I understood what it was that he was teaching me, and that was the day everything changed. And I'll never forget. I was in Rockford, Illinois, on the Controversy tour. That was my wake up. Was it? No, it was. What's it called? Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's where it was. I was sitting in that hotel room, depressed, hair just
Really?
nappy. Just
So, but what was
my
depressing?
hair was like this long.
what was
but he didn't tell me what to do with it.
Yeah.
See? I mean, now we done been out on the road for months. I didn't know this stuff. I mean, I'd get up in the morning and it was just like, you know,
Right.
and he never told me what a curling iron was. Not, but he straightened my hair like his, but he never told me how to do anything
Maintain
with
it, yeah.
I didn't know what makeup was. I didn't know what any of this stuff that they were doing. And so every night for me was a challenge because I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, ooh, who are you? You know, I didn't, it wasn't me.
Right.
But that, I'll never forget that day I said, I was walking through a Walgreens and I saw a little micro curling iron. It was the little micro ones. And I said,
The
"Man,
kinds where you can pull out and you can travel with them and
Oh,
push them back in.
man, let me tell you
know,
something. I was in that mirror. I was in there for about 4 hours and went to sound check. My junk was all curly. I looked like Shirley Temple. And I was like, oh, man, I done really messed up now. And I went on. I was so mad. You know, we went to rehearsal or the sound check, and I just went like this with my hair, just roughed it up. And then I looked in the mirror and I was like,
Right.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's my new look. And ever since then, I wore that big hair, and he loved it.
Bet
He
he
saw me
did,
coming into
yeah.
myself, and even on the bass, you know, most bass players, you know, I watch Prince, and he's like, okay, I want you to play this, or I want you to do that. Man, he didn't care what I played. He said, Mark, just, you know, give me some of that rumble. You know, B flat. I'd be like, okay. You couldn't understand. I know what I was playing, you know, and he loved it. He loved it every single time. And so, you know, as we progressed, that sound progressed with us. It became part of the revolution sound, this bottom bass. I don't think, other than Pop Life and a couple songs like that, there's not too many defined bass lines that you can really say, oh, that bass line goes like this.
Right.
So did he allow like in recording, and did he allow you to? He wouldn't even tell you what notes to play. You would just
Not me, no.
okay,
He would kind of just, he let me do my thing, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, he gave me that freedom. I like that, though. And then when it was sounding, you know, like pretty boo-boo, you know, I mean, he, you know.
He like, let me reel you back in.
Yeah, he reeled me back and he'd be like,
Well,
okay.
'cause I know musicians, so the fact that he was, you know, you changed your bass is a big thing.
Yeah.
Because I know bass players and they get very attached to
Yeah.
their, you know, different basses. So how was the change for you from the bass you were playing to the Fender Jazz?
Well, that was the problem. See, I was attached. And like I said, he was a guy that will break you. He'll break you down to nothing and then make you reinvent yourself. And so when he put me on that Fender, the neck was wider. I mean, the strings were more spaced out. The frets were wider. It forced me into a different style, a different approach. And it was just a funky bass. I mean, gosh.
And it's
know.
funny because most bass players that I play with, they play the Fender Jazz. That's all they talk about.
I didn't know what a Fender Jazz felt like.
Yeah.
And that thing was so funky that it just gave me a whole, you know, new, you know, just a new direction on my bass approach. So
But I think that ultimately, when you think about that, that's just the genius of Prince in the sense that he knew what he wanted his music to sound like. He knew what he wanted everybody to look like. He knew what he was trying to say, whether it be musically or visually.
well, he was an excellent artist developer.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy knew, I don't care who it was, anytime he could take people that couldn't even sing and he could make them sound great. I mean, this guy knows how to develop artists. And that's what he was good at.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, I know we have pretty much talked about Prince the whole entire time, but we are going to talk more about what you got going on in this next segment. But before we go out, we are going to play your song "Skeletons in My Closet," which I hear is domestic violence, song about domestic violence, and this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I definitely want to talk to you more about that. But right now, we're going to go out with Brown Mark and Skeletons in My Closet, and then we'll be back. We just up here yapping.
He don't want Peter to get after you.
No, us. I'm trying to get sponsored.
Peter, I'm about to wear this vintage silver fox that my daddy bought my mama back in the 70s. Peter.
I think mine is mink. Is it?
Yeah.
And a mink.
And I need
No, it's
y'all-
leather and mink.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Leather and mink. You done killed the daggone cow and the mink. Woo, child, let me tell you something. We are politically incorrect over here. Look, it was the 70s. You know, I got vintage stuff from mama and daddy.
Why
so,
everybody put their initials and names inside their jackets
honey? 'Cause
back
they-
then?
Why?
It's so soul.
I'm gonna need y'all to change subject.
Oh, sorry.
She trying to worry about Peter. Peter ain't about to do nothing with her. Anyway. Okay, so I like the song. Can you give us a little background about Skeletons in My Closet?
Yeah, I wrote it about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I wasn't going to re-release it, but I there's somebody in my family that's close to me, and she had been a victim of domestic abuse since she was 6. She's currently deceased. She died a couple of years ago, and her life was tragic, and I grew up seeing a lot of that, and
Right.
I had this song, and I said, you know what, if I'm gonna resurface in the industry, let me resurface with something that has some meaning, and because there's too much of this going on,
Yeah, I respect that tremendously.
and no one's talking.
No, especially not men.
Yeah.
Women will talk a little bit for the ones that will talk
Yeah.
about it, but men,
Yeah.
we act like as a community, and even especially Black culture, like that it doesn't happen, and it's so prevalent.
Very prevalent, and no one talks about it. There's a group called A Call to Men. Porter, Mr. Porter. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Terry or Terry Porter. But
Okay.
anyways, he runs. It's called A Call to Men, and so I've been in touch with them, and we're going to try to work together as well, because that's what this is about. How these boys grow up seeing this abuse, and then they just carry it with them through life, and that's what the song is about. Little boy, he's watching this, and then you see him walk away as an old man, and his entire life has been abusive towards
Yeah.
women, because he's developed that disposition and that mindset. And
Yeah.
so, Call to Men, very interesting organization. That's what their fight is. So I'm going to get in on that fight.
I'm glad to hear that, because that was one of the things. I talk a lot about domestic violence. I wrote a book called Cold Sweat, My Father, James Brown, and Me, and I talk about seeing the domestic violence growing up between my mom and my dad, and then how it, for lack of a better terminology, predisposed me to being in domestic violent relationship myself, or marriage, and how no one really talks about the man or the young boy
Yeah.
that sees it, and then we all want to say, oh, he's horrible, he's a monster, but he saw that as a kid, and it's not that you give him a pass, but then you try to understand
Yeah.
and then work him through that, because
Yeah.
this is what he knows.
Yeah.
So
The education has to start with the kids, because as they grow into manhood, that's what they carry with them. So if you start young, then these new generations that are coming up, see, they'll have a better shot, a better chance than the ones that did not have mentors or people that would give speeches and consult with them and help them to understand that, this behavior has to go away, and we're a voice for you to be able to reach out and talk to, and we'll
Yeah.
listen to you. We're all open ears, and we want to hear you, but we want you to listen to us too,
right.
and try to train these young men that that's not, you don't put your hands on a woman. That's wrong.
And
No
then
means
identifying
no.
why you have that anger, right? That's
But
for us all.
I think statistically, it's mind-boggling how many men that are abusers witness their mothers being abused. Like it's really high.
Yeah.
It's really high, which I don't understand why people. Which I mean, even like with the whole Chris Brown thing, like that was a known fact that his mother was abused, and like I said, you didn't want to give him a pass, but I kind of feel like he still is like paying the price for
Right,
that.
you're
And I'm like,
empathetic
guys,
about how he grew up and what he saw.
and I don't feel like anybody was empathetic towards him. And I'm not saying that he should have gotten a pass for the Rihanna, but like she played his song on one of her, I think she has a new lingerie line or something. I think she played the song and fans were upset with her. And I'm like, well, if she can forgive him, and obviously, why can't you forgive him? Because maybe he's gone through some counseling and there's a level of understanding as to why he was like that. Because that's the only way you're going to solve the problem is to get to the root of the problem. Because all of it is just a symptom of where it came from.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny too because we listen to, you know, women speak out now in this day and age about rape, date rape, and what have you. I was raped when I was 16.
Wow.
Taken, you know. And a lot of people laugh at me because they go, "You're a guy. Guys can't get raped."
No,
And
they
then
can.
Then they laugh at me. But the bottom line is, it was taken from me. My mother taught me, wait till you're married, and that's what I was doing. I didn't know any different.
Right.
And I went through a good 5-year period because that was right. A few years later, I meet Prince. I'm meeting groupies and whatever. I went through this whole period of life where I hated women, and I didn't know why. But I never abused them because my mother, it's one of the things she put in my brain when I was young, you never touch a woman.
Right.
And so I never was abusive, but I understand the anger when somebody has something taken from them, that violation.
Right.
What it does is it robs you of the innocence. Once the innocence is gone, you turn into an animal, you know, because, you know, I got to a point where, you know, I had to go to the doctor and say, hey, you know, I'm having some issues. He said, what kind of issues, son? And, are you sexually active? I said, And he says, oh, a little too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, but what it was is it was my way of,
Taking back your power.
that's it. Exactly. You know, it was the wrong way to do it. And so I was corrected and you know, I got back on the right track. But man, for a minute there, I was like, wow, this is some deep stuff. What's going on with me?
But I think part of the problem is that as a man, men don't tell that side of it. So they think it's not manly
Yep.
for you to say, you know, it was taken from me. This is not what I wanted to do. And then when you turn into that person, then all of a sudden it's just your fault as opposed to, again,
Yeah.
dealing with the root of the problem and not the symptom of however you're acting out. You know,
Exactly.
because men don't talk about that,
No.
you know. And I think that a lot
And I
of...
mean, you were a boy when that
I
happened.
was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
mean,
50 years old when I finally came out and talked about it.
But
50.
but I think also I know friends that they were like 12 and they slept with their 20-year-old babysitter and they think it doesn't affect them. They think, oh,
does.
it's cool. And I'm like, that has affected you, whether or
Exactly.
not that was your first experience with a
Absolutely.
grown woman. Like, and they don't really, and it's probably levels and degrees of how it affects certain people. But the fact of the matter is, it affects you just like it would
Absolutely.
affect a woman.
Absolutely.
But because you're a boy, you're supposed to be okay with it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's problematic.
what a tremendous, and I know we're getting heavy, but what a tremendous weight to carry around
Yeah.
for all those years for you.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Because
I mean,
we're-
not carry it around. It probably wasn't
No, that
necessarily
was
in the
good. It was weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't figure out how to navigate.
Right.
I watch couples and, you know, happy couples in love and everything. I couldn't figure that stuff out. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't figure it out. Well, it's because I was holding on to so much anger, you know, deep down inside. So once I got a grip on that, I was able to understand why relationships did not work for me. How could a relationship work with you if you didn't understand why you would get angry about certain things you would see in that relationship? You know. So
Wow.
Once I start to understand, then things got much better for me.
I can imagine. Well, let's talk about the direction of where your music is going, because you said
Whew, that was deep.
I know. We're gonna try to reel it back into the music, reel it back into
But
the
somebody
music.
needed to hear
Oh, yeah.
that. So
Oh yes,
somebody
yes.
needed to hear that. So
Yes. So you said the direction of the music was a little bit different from where your whole, I guess, do we still call them albums anymore?
No,
EP.
I don't do albums
Okay,
anymore.
EP.
Yeah,
That's
like
I
giving
stopped
music
doing
away.
albums. Yeah.
nobody does that.
I release singles. This next EP is going to be really what I'm about. I'm
Okay.
about that rock, funk, and hip hop. Funk, rock, and hip hop. That's what I call it. And it's like a morphed hip hop. It's like you take a hip hop
Okay.
This next release is going to be called House Party. It's going to be,
Ah.
yeah, it's the cut. I like it.
Oh,
I
okay.
like it. Yeah.
Please shoot the video here.
I can try. Last time that didn't work out very well, but you know,
Call me, I'll get you the right.
yeah. You know,
Give Hotlanta a chance.
growing up in Minneapolis, I just know so many people down here. I just need to meet more people because you got to trust who you work with. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
How long have you been in Atlanta?
2.5,
Okay.
3 years. Yeah, about 3 years.
Oh yeah.
I'm never here, but been
All
here.
right. Well, I
like
guess
that.
we're gonna. Huh?
That's it.
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna
Aren't
do
we
some
all?
damage down here too. My production company's up, so yeah, we're gonna be working.
So are you gonna? I'm off.
Keita's our producer is now on the mic and she asking all the questions. I'm about to just give her my mic.
Sorry.
But before we go out to your song, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find out everything that you got going on, where you're gonna be performing, all that good stuff.
Well, if you follow the revolution, then you know our Facebook page is probably the best place to see where all our events are.
Okay.
We're playing in December. We're doing the Ace Hotel, and that's going to be a nice gig.
Okay.
And then 2020 will start. We got a lot of things lined up. As for my band, it's Brown Mark and the Bad Boys of Paisley.
Okay.
And what that is it's like a what's the word I want to use? Maserati used to be called the Bad Boys of Paisley. Okay, so I've been trying to put them back together for decades.
Okay.
It's an impossible task. And, I mean, those are my boys, but man, they are crazy. And and so I just couldn't I could not seem to put it back together. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm gonna call my band the Bad Boys of Paisley, and then use different people from the Paisley Park camp
Okay.
to be in my band and play with me. And so that works a little better, and then I don't have to be kind of locked down to that Maserati brand and logo.
All right.
And there's a lot of negativity with it too that I found. I'm like, yeah, man. I said, what were you guys doing on the road, man? I talk to promoters and things, and the first thing they want to talk about is, well, are you guys gonna miss gigs? I'm like, miss gigs?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Wilding
things.
out.
Yeah, that's a whole nother book
Right.
right
Go
there.
back to what you said, the rock star.
Throwing furniture out windows and stuff. I mean, it's
That's
crazy.
normal behavior.
Yeah, that's normal.
Normal rock star behavior.
It's normal until you got to write the check.
Yeah, to pay for that
Right.
stuff.
That's crazy.
I would lose it. How much? Mm-mm.
Like, what were you doing?
Yeah, absolutely
You
not.
Tripping. That's your whole look.
That's your whole
like,
check.
Daddy, you fine.
Oh, your daddy had no problem taking your money.
Got fined.
I got fined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got fined. He had no problem taking your check. I done seen him take somebody a whole check. I was like, ooh.
Was Isaac like that?
He probably,
No, my dad, but he was still, yeah.
he probably came back and gave him.
He's done
half
some
of
things.
it.
I've heard some things that are so awful, and I'm like, oh my God, my dad, yes.
It happens.
It's bad.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I won't even say it on air. Like, I was like,
No, ma'am.
but we're probably going to tell it in the movie, but
That's right.
yeah.
I would like everybody that's listening, go to bmnation.com.
Okay.
It's real simple, bmnation.com. And on the bottom, it has every link to everything we're doing. So you
Oh,
just
awesome.
click on the links, and it takes you to wherever we got something going on. Especially Spotify. If you're a Spotify, playlist person, just add me to Spotify. I'm trying to get the likes out there.
Yeah.
Your Spotify lights up and
Yeah.
you'll-
And Reverb Nation.
Reverb Nation for sure.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. SoundCloud. Yeah.
All
I'm
them,
all out there.
all that
Tidal.
stuff.
Oh, you're on title too?
I'm on Apple.
All right, you
Amazon.
everywhere. All right, well, you out there.
Yeah, you know.
Y'all just look them up
This
now.
business is rough.
Brown Mark and the Bad Boys of Paisley. All right, we're gonna go out with "Through Another Day." Is that what we're going out to?
Wow, that's an old one.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
Oh, wow.
Well,
Okay.
this young lady picks all of our music, so.
That's off a record that I never released. Oh, thanks.
She does her research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going out to. So y'all enjoy "Through Another Day."
You're watching Soul Sisters on Pure Soul, powered by Isaac Hayes on Dash Radio.